Welcome back to Transfer Winners and Losers. Everybody, Chris Hamill joins me in the studio. Before we get started, a big congratulations to Algeria for winning the AFCON on Friday night. Zach Jalab, a very, very happy bunny involved in some incredible scenes around London. But we're here to talk about transfers. And the first team in our winners are Wolverhampton Wanderers. This was sent in by Put a Donk on it.
What a Twitter handle and what a transfer rumour. If you're a Wolves fan, it's Patrick Cutrone, the prodigious young talent from AC Milan who was supposed to be their saviour 18 months ago. He's been linked with a £23 million move to Wolves, according to Sky Sports and Damasio. Now, following his breakout campaign in 17-18, where he actually scored 18 times in 46 appearances, his form has stuttered somewhat. Only 3 league goals last term in 12 starts, and he didn't score following the arrival of Piontek from Genoa, who scored 9 in 16, although no one hit double figures last year for a goal-shy AC Milan side who only netted 55 times. That was the 8th highest in the division. Now, Cutrone, despite this form, remains a very, very good prospect. So his shots per 90 have fallen from 2.6 in 17-18 to 2.1 this term, although 2.6 is actually better than Piontek produced in his 6 months at AC Milan. And his passes have declined from 14 per game to 9.
Wow.
So not really that involved when he does play, although probably a good indication of what sort of player he is. He's a penalty box poacher. He's a very good little finisher, or an orthodox finisher, a good variation of finishing. He's got a decent header for the Italian under-21 team recently. So he's a different proposition to Jimenez and Jota, who do a lot of good work outside the box, although I think Jimenez was averaging 1.7 shots inside the box, which is better than Cutrone's 1.4, but no one else in the Wolves squad nearing 1.4. So it could help Wolves become a little less predictable in that sense. Only signings for Nuno Espirito Santos' side so far have been Dendoncker and Raul Jimenez securing their loanees. And they will need signings ahead of a Europa League campaign. They'll need to strengthen. And this one looks like it might be a goer, with AC Milan needing to raise funds.
Yes, as ever, the Milan sides have absolutely nothing in the way of money, so need to sell players in order to buy players. AC obviously want to bring in Angel Correa from Atletico Madrid, so they're going to have to sell Patrick Cutrone. But doesn't necessarily signal the end of Wolves' spending. They remain interested in Ruben Diaz. They're not the only club that's interested in the defender, are they? Of course, Real Madrid, Manchester United and Arsenal all still keen. Now, he has got a long-term contract still until 2023, but has a relatively reasonable £57 million buyout clause, which in the modern market is not a huge amount. Benfica obviously looking to give him a new contract and bump that up to over 100 million like they did with João Felix before he moved to Atletico Madrid. Of course, the former young Portuguese player of the year started 6 times for his country at the Nations League. Very, very good on the ball. Fantastic passing ability. 4 long passes per 90 averaged. And was only outpassed by Alex Grimaldo in Liga NOS last term, averaging nearly 60 passes per 90, which is a huge amount. 60 passes. That's obviously more than players like Rafa Varane, who we consider very good on the ball. I think this would be an incredible move, but I don't see it happening the same summer as Patrick Cutrone. I think there are bigger clubs interested in Ruben Diaz, and he'll probably spend another year in Portugal.
He has come out and said that his main focus is reporting back to Benfica, of course. They mopped up on the domestic scene last term, didn't they? And he was crucial to that. So he may want to stick around for another year, especially seeing, what happened with other exports like Lindelof not necessarily settling that quickly in England. That might have put him off a big money move for the time being. But what do you think? Where should Ruben Diaz go? Where should Ruben Diaz go? Let us know in the comments below. Our first loser is Big Gazaby, and this comes from Oh My Thing and Oh My Bloody Days. What is happening in Camp Bale?
Oh, I feel very sorry for the legendary Welshman, really. One of the best Welshmen ever to play the game. It looks like he is being forced out of Real Madrid by Zinedine Zidane. If you roll back just a couple of months, of course, Jonathan Barnett, his well outspoken, I think it's fair to say, agent, was saying, oh, you know, he's very happy at Real Madrid, he's going to play his entire career there. But now news breaks that apparently Zidane, as part of the deal to bring him back, wanted Bale out. And following these quotes on the weekend, it seems like it could be the end of the road for his Los Blancos career.
For all of us, I hope it is imminent, and for him also. The club is talking about where he can go play, and that's where we are. It's nothing personal. It's not personal. There comes a time where these things happen, and it's what needs to be done.
Following those quotes, Barnett, his agent, was back out and running his mouth again, wasn't he? He called Zidane a disgrace. He then went on to say he shows no respect for a player that has done so much for Real Madrid. And then saying, we're working on a few things. Gareth is a Madrid player, but if he does leave, it will be his own decision, not Mr. Zidane's.
Burn.
So, where is he going to end up? Well, sadly, I think it's fair to say, the most likely destination appears to be China. He is on £600,000 a week at Real Madrid, but that could well be doubled if reports are believed from China. Apparently, he is close to signing for Yangzhou Suning. Quite a few Chinese journalists posting congratulations to the club and to the owner about this transfer already. It would be probably the most expensive of all time in terms of wages. I don't know what the fee's going to be, probably a little bit lower in order to offset those wages, but I just don't want to see him go to China. He's only 30. I think he's still got more to offer. Take a pay cut and come back to the Prem and prove yourself again, Gaz.
Yeah, when you say you feel sorry for him, I get what you mean, in that it's not a very fitting end to a very elite player's career. However, he could force through a move to the Premier League if he was willing to take that wage cut. I just feel like he's fallen out of love with the game. I think that's probably been the case for the last 2 or 3 years. He's alienated himself from players at Real Madrid, hasn't he, by refusing to learn the language. On a fundamental, human level, that's not really that acceptable, showing that unwillingness to embrace Spanish culture. And it's becoming poor form from everyone involved, isn't it?
I didn't expect this as Zidane, though, I have to say. I thought Zidane would just get on with it.
But Zidane didn't want him during his last tenure, and then this problem's still hanging over him going into a new season when there's going to be a massive amount of squad turnover. So I can appreciate him just wanting to sort this out. And having to deal with someone like Barnett would probably rub you up the wrong way if you're a manager.
True.
Yeah, I remember, who was it, Ancelotti? Who did Ancelotti tell to shut up? I mean, even, mild-mannered managers get annoyed by agents, don't they? Just rub them up the wrong way. Anyway, let's go back into Gareth Bale and have a look at his sort of numbers. Bale by numbers at Real Madrid: 102 goals in 231 appearances, 4 Champions League triumphs, seemingly counting for very little at this point. But what would a potential suitor be getting in Bale? Because everyone's go-to phrase is sort of injury-prone player, isn't it? But not necessarily the truth. He still managed to make 42 appearances last season in all competitions, only missed 9 games through injury. In fact, he's only played under 1,700 league minutes once in the last 10 seasons, and in 5 of those seasons, he played over 2,000 minutes. And he's still an effective player when he does play, so 3.8 shots per 90, 2.1 of those coming from inside the area, which is only 0.3 less than Messi. Wow. But while his shot numbers have stayed at a relatively high level, his creativity is waning. Key passes dropping from 2 in the 17-18 season to just 0.9 in 18-19. That's his lowest for 10 years. Overall, though, still an incredibly useful player when he does come on, with an expected goals and assists of 0.63 per 90 last term. That's 0.07 higher than new recruit Eden Hazard. Like we said, though, those wages are going to be a huge stumbling block for any potential new suitor, and Real Madrid, he's got 3 years left on his contract, having signed a new contract in 2016, so he could just stay and rot on the pine, couldn't they, on the bench. But we don't want to see that happen, nor do we really want to see him go to China. What would you guys have Gareth Bale do? Vote in the poll just above.
Moving on to our final winners then. This one was sent in by PR Coper. It's Aston Villa.
Yeah, I feel like this is very generous. Aston Villa qualifying for our final winners slot by virtue of just making signings. We'd be lying if we said we knew who they were or we were that clued up on them. But away we go. Newly promoted Villa now have racked up £100 million worth of spend, and it doesn't appear to be stopping there. Sky Sports reporting that they've had an initial bid of £8.5 million accepted for Kasim Pasa winger Mohamed Hassan, also known as Trezeguet.
Sick nickname, never heard of this team.
Reject the premise of that nickname. David Trezeguet, very much a number 9, wasn't he? The forward attracted interest from Galatasaray, Inter Milan and St Etienne, owing to the season he just had, which consisted of 9 goals and 10 assists. That output would have put him second for goals scored in the Villain side, with only Tammy Abraham contributing more. Now, the former Anderlecht man did have a standout season in the Turkish top flight last year, with 4 shots per game, completing 2.3 key passes per game. Bit of a creative powerhouse. He also completed the most dribbles in Turkish football with 112 take-ons. Pretty impressive. The 24-year-old also showed great promise in the recent African Cup of Nations, scoring a goal for Egypt and pipping Mo Salah to his country's MVP of that tournament. He'd be Aston Villa's 9th signing if this went through, Joseph. Any more light to shine on the villains before we quickly wrap this up?
Well, they're not stopping there by the looks of it. The supposed move that we chatted about, me and Chris, on Transfer Review last week for Douglas Luiz, looks like it's picking up pace to the tune of about £15 million. Manchester City likely to have a buyback option inserted there. They're clearly after defensive midfielders, aren't they? They have been linked with the brilliantly named Marvellous Nakamba and Baptiste Santamaria, but it looks at this stage like Dean Smith is favouring Douglas Luiz. Obviously, we chatted about him on Transfer Review, so not going to go into his statistics too heavily. They're not the most impressive on paper, but he is highly touted by Pep Guardiola, so maybe there's something in that. They're also after a goalkeeper. Tom Heaton has been suggested, 33-year-old from Burnley, who of course have 3 options between the sticks: Tom Heaton, Joe Hart, Nick Pope. They're likely to let one of those go, and they could end up at Villa. He's apparently being valued about £10 million, and Sean Dyche would be willing to let him go. I think that would be quite a good move. I think Tom Heaton had quite a good season last year and might bring a little bit of Premier League experience to these Aston Villa signings, because like you said at the start, seem a little bit slapdash on paper. But having said that, Dean Smith might get the best out of him. John Terry might G him up, give him a chance, because I don't think it's going to be exactly like Fulham. Fulham's signings were all going forward. I don't think they signed any defenders, did they? At least Villa are trying to bolster the back line as well. It's a bit more spread out, there's a bit more thinking to it, but either way, they are signing a lot of players.
Our final losers are Eintracht Frankfurt. This comes from Finley Harlow. I think we all know why, but it's a bit of a slow news week, so we've had to rein it back in.
Yes, they are losing absolutely everyone at the moment, aren't they? Of course, Jovic joined Real Madrid, and Sebastian Haller last week completed that 5-year move to West Ham for a record fee, to be fair, a massive fee of £45 million. Now, those two were absolutely deadly for Frankfurt last season. Between them, they got 47 of the team's 91 goals. Haller himself got 32 goal contributions in all competitions last season. So if I was a Frankfurt fan, I would be extremely worried about the coming season. If they lose Rebic to Atletico, they may as well chuck the towel in right now. They're also looking likely to lose Kevin Trapp, who was of course on loan at PSG last season. He might well end up at Porto if rumours are to be believed. The only positive really, if you're a Frankfurt fan, of losing all these players is you have got a lot of money, close to £100 million to play with. So go and spend it wisely, because replacing Haller and replacing Jovic is close to being the impossible task for Frankfurt this season.
So we have covered that transfer dynamic quite extensively, but here is the new take. According to the Daily Record, Eintracht Frankfurt looking to replace this attacking exodus with Rangers striker Alfredo Morelos. Now, the Colombian did have a superb campaign last year, 30 goals and 11 assists in all competitions. It's a decent return, but the 23-year-old is a walking red card. Scott Brown had him on strings in the Old Firm. 5 red cards and 16 yellows in all competitions.
He might be, like, every time I hear about this guy, he's bigged up. Every time, I only ever watch one Rangers game a year, and it is the Old Firm, and he's awful in all of them. He looks like he can't kick a ball. The ball, every single time I've watched Morelos, it rolls across 5 yards out and he misses it, or it's his shin, or it's his face and goes wide.
I mean, hasn't fared that well in the Old Firm, but has scored a lot of goals, you know, outside of it. Shades of Chris Boyd in years gone by. He's a decent little finisher, but I don't think Rangers are going to attract bids of £20 million for him. Moussa Dembele cost £20 million, and I think he had a much higher ceiling than someone like Morelos. He did score a hat-trick in Rangers Europa League qualifier. They smashed that 6-0, I believe it was, on Thursday. Palace and Newcastle also said to be interested. Now, I think Bordeaux bid 9.5 for him roughly a year ago, and that was rejected.
That would be a horrible signing for Palace and Newcastle.
Yeah, I don't think. I think the Premier League's probably beyond him at this point. Maybe the Bundesliga or the middle echelons of the Bundesliga would be a decent next step. However, Gerrard recently confirmed that no offer has been made. Would you replace Seb Haller with Morelos? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're not interested, then just like the video. Make sure you subscribe to Football Daily, because we didn't actually do a subscriber push in the other parts of the video. So click, the little bell as well for notifications to never miss a Football Daily moment. And, what else is there left to be said, Joseph? What other videos can you recommend to the fine people at home?
Why not go and watch Stat Wars over the weekend? Yesterday, of course, Sunday Vibes went live. We were talking about who is going to struggle next season. Mainly Newcastle, Sheffield United, Atletico Madrid spring to mind. Either way, I think that pretty much summarises it nicely.
Yeah,
Good
a
night.
slow week.
Yeah.
A slow week of transfers. Next week, big one.